Alright guys, so after we've wrapped up our research paper from last week, we are going to move into something a little bit more fun and creative. We're going to be moving into our short story unit, which will be a 3-week unit. You guys are going to read 3 different stories, and all the stories have similarities. So that's going to be our big focus, is what makes these stories different and what makes them the same. And we're going to focus those talks around the themes, the meaning, and the literary devices that we can find in all the stories. So our expectations for this unit are that you guys are doing close readings. You're analyzing the stories. We're reading beyond that for understanding and comprehension, but we're really thinking about, what does this mean? Why are we still reading it? So those are our big focuses, okay? We want to make connections, guys. We talked about this last quarter with annotations. You've been practicing this when we focus on text to text, text to self, and text to world. We need to be making those connections as we read. And in the classroom, there are guided reading questions for you as you go along. They're embedded in the story on the lesson page, and it's also available as a Word document printout. So if it's easier for you to take notes on pen and paper as you follow along, you're welcome to do that. If you want to mentally create those notes, that's fine as well. The goal is that for our discussion later this week, we're able to really get into the text. We want to talk about the story. We want to analyze the story. So whatever you need to do to be prepared, and you guys know this by now, we've been practicing it all school year, that's what we need to be working on. Okay? So then we're also going to be participating in lots of classroom discussions. So you guys will get to utilize the discussion board. You'll be creating responses, developing questions, and responding to one another. Then you'll also be discussing and leading those discussions, which will be new for you guys, and we're so excited. We know you're going to do great in our live sessions. So when you guys come to class Wednesday, be really prepared to not only talk about the story, but have good questions to ask about the story. And if there are things that you're not sure about, things that need to be clarified, bring those questions with you. You know, ask your classmates, rely on one another to help each other out, and then we're always here for your help as well. So overall, what we're looking for through the assignments and the final project at the end of this unit is that you're creating insightful, thoughtful, and well-written responses about the story. You show us that you can do a close reading, that you understand the significance of theme and meaning in those stories, that you can pick out the similarities and differences in what you're reading. So that's really what we're focusing on. We know you guys are ready to do this. So we're really, really excited to see what you guys can do for us. So let's talk about some big ideas. So 2 questions that we're going to really be focusing our research on in our discussions are, what is the author trying to teach us, and what are we supposed to learn? So what is the author trying to teach us? And for that, we're going to think about, what are their experiences like? How may that affect how they wrote the story? Their choice of words, their choice of topic, their purpose, their point of view. Those are the things we're going to be focusing on with that question. And then for the second question, what are we supposed to learn from these stories? So what's the meaning? What do we take away? You know, some of these stories are older. Why are we still reading them? Why are they relevant? What do they mean to us? And I think one of the key things that we'll see as a connection that really does make these stories relevant still are the themes. And the 4 big themes we're going to be talking about are pride, evil, compassion, and innocence. And this week, what you guys are going to do is, your first assignment is just a graded for completion assignment, but it's an anticipatory set. So what that means is there are, I think, 6 quotes, 2 from each of the 3 stories. And what you guys are going to do is respond to those quotes. Do you strongly agree? Do you kind of agree? You're neutral, disagree, strongly disagree. And you're just going to see how you feel about it. There is no right or wrong answer. It's just to get you start thinking about these big ideas. And then when we're done with the unit, we'll come back and we'll revisit these ideas again, and we'll see how your opinions may have evolved. And it'll be really interesting, you guys, when we have these discussions. You're really going to see how these stories have maybe changed your perspective, which is really great. That's what good stories do. So that's our goal. So like I mentioned earlier, the first story we will be reading is The Possibility of Evil. And The Possibility of Evil is a story by Shirley Jackson, who we read back in second quarter. We read The Lottery, so you guys can go ahead and tell me in the chat, raise your hand, green check, red X. Do you guys remember The Lottery? And if you do, what do you remember about it? What are some of the themes? And if you can't remember the theme specifically, just what do you remember? So I'll give you guys a minute to take some notes, and then we will chat. All right, so let's take a look at some of your answers here. So we have what you guys remember about The Lottery. The lure of darkness pulls people into evil. Evil takes its cold, strong, merciless foothold. Hannah, you always have such a great way of explaining everything. We remember that slips of paper were chosen by townspeople and stones were thrown at people with a black dot. Yep, good, good. We also talked about some people are stuck in their ways, and that really relates us back to tradition and those rituals that we see in society where things just kind of move along without a lot of question. So that's definitely a big theme that we saw. Good. And then people do what others do. Exactly. That idea of conformity. Very good. They're too scared to stand up against maybe those traditions and those rituals or other people. Very good. Traditions and rituals aren't always a good thing, and you shouldn't be afraid to stand up for what's wrong. Absolutely. That ties right back into that individuality versus conformity, that debate that we had back in second quarter. Good. Change can be positive or negative. That's up to you. Cool. Exactly. Yeah. So we're really talking about, from The Lottery and Shirley Jackson, who we know some of those big themes, right, that appear in a previous story. Maybe they'll appear in this story. So we talk about society, tradition, rituals, individuality and conformity, change, and then ultimately evil. And that's really what we talked about. So now we need to think about, were those themes just something Shirley Jackson wrote about in that specific story, The Lottery, or will we also see that in The Possibility of Evil? So that's what we need to consider. And what do you guys think? All right, guys. So like we just said, like The Lottery, The Possibility of Evil demonstrates Jackson's belief that true evil is alive and well in each person. What do you guys think about this statement? So after we talked about the themes that we saw in The Lottery, we talked about Shirley Jackson and her personal interests, her point of view. Now she has that belief that true evil is alive and well in each person. What do you guys think? Agree? Disagree? I'll give you a minute to go ahead and write, and then we'll talk about it. All right, so let's go over some of these answers. Great response, you guys. Really good answers. So let's go through here. We say, I agree, but I also believe that we can overcome the evil with good. Okay? I believe it's true, but it can be seen almost anywhere in almost everyone's personality. Good. Pure evil always starts off as a thought and must be contemplated before action is taken. Therefore, evil starts from within the heart and minds of regular people. Good. That's something eerie to think about, right? Good. Good cannot exist without evil, and with most people being good-natured, that nature cannot exist without a darker side to them. Good. You guys, these are really insightful responses. It's a scary thought. I don't really think evil, so to speak, but maybe being an upper versus lower self. So maybe there are good versions of us and bad versions of us, and it depends what we show to other people. And if I am not clarifying that correctly, Zuri, feel free to, jump in the chat and tell me that I am wrong. Good. So what happens when people get power? They abuse it. It's human nature. I think it kind of depends on the person's definition of true evil. Good. So there's kind of a debate you guys are seeing between the use of the word evil. It's a very strong word. It elicits a strong response. I think that's Shirley Jackson's intention. So I think we're supposed to react to those ideas and to develop our own. But let's see, like you guys said down here, it's kind of a gray area. Good. That's really good. That's exactly where we kind of want to be by the end of our discussion. Not that being evil is good, but that it's complicated. So keep that in mind. Great responses, you guys.